Clever Hound Expert Sparks team. Today's trick is one that's really impressive if you can get your dog to do it. It's going to be agility weave poles. This is a little bit of a tricky thing to teach, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways that may work, or a couple different setups that might work for you and your dog. I will say that the instructions that I'm giving are best suited for someone who is really just teaching this as a fun trick. If your intention is to compete in agility with your dog, you really do want your dog to perform the weave poles very quickly and very accurately. And I would actually recommend that you go with the Susan Garrett 2x2 weave training method for that. It'll take a little bit longer than what we're doing here, but it'll give you a much more solid finished behavior. But if you're just looking for weave poles as a fun trick to do with your dog, I'll give you some tips to get them started. For weave poles, you can have regular competition weave poles. Here I have a set of practice poles that are nice and lightweight, easily transportable to therapy dog visits and demos and things like that. These are not as solid as the metal bases on the competition poles, but they can be a good way to get started. And the nice thing about this set is they can be offset, which will help for the dogs that are just learning. But you don't need weave poles at all. You can actually just use stick in the ground fence poles. You'll want at least 6 of them. It would normally be an even number, so I would suggest between 6 and 12 in even number increments. And they would normally be spaced 24 inches apart in the US, so you want to have a tape measure or something to measure your spacing. But if you don't want to invest in an actual set of weave poles, fence posts work beautifully. You can do all kinds of homemade options, especially if you're just doing this as a trick and not preparing your dog for competition. A lot of times the best way to start out is with the poles offset. So if you're using something stick in the ground, you can just offset them that way. I have my practice poles offset a bit. Hey, Chill, come here. Chili hasn't done offset poles in probably 11 years or so she may think I'm a little crazy. But what I'm going to start out, and you can actually start with them quite wide so the dog, you're really just calling the dog through, and then slowly creep them together. Hey, Chill. Hey, weave. Get up. Yay! So she could pretty much just walk through there. If she had never seen weave poles before, I would probably have had to either lure with a treat or use a hand target in the beginning. You can use your hand target at this level for your finished trick product, but you can't use a lure when you're actually showing me your trick for titling purposes. But that doesn't mean you can't train that way. But what I would do is, as the dog got better and better, I would just move the poles slightly closer and then slightly closer until they're all the way up. And as I said, you could start much wider than I even did. It can sometimes help to throw a toy or to have a target or something out there that the dog is aiming for at first. They are supposed to enter from the right side, so their left shoulder would be adjacent to the first pole as they enter. This can take a few weeks to train. Luring it is fine for your trick dogs. As I said, it's not how I would go with a competition dog because it's going to create a slower performance. But starting with channels, another option, if you have them, although this is a little bit of an investment, would be to have wires on your channel poles over here. So these are actually plastic devices that clip on, which make it even harder for the dog to make a mistake. These don't fit on these particular poles, but you can just see that that really kind of keeps the dog in. That's another option, although it's another equipment purchase. So if you're just doing this for trick dog purposes and you're just using stick in the ground poles, I think you'll be able to do it with just channeling, throwing your toy through, and then slowly creeping the channel together. And then, hey, Chill. Want to show them what the finished product looks like? Ready, Chill? Weave. What? Ready? Chili, weave. Yay, that's it. Good girl. Good job. So that's pretty fancy. This is a little more complicated trick, but we are at expert level, so I wanted to throw some challenging ones in there. Have fun. If you have questions about suitable equipment, or if you hit any trouble in training, show me a video of where you are, and I'll give you some tips on how to get to the next step. Have fun with this.